Podcast. I'm Sarnith, and joining me is my co-host Louie, and our guest for the week is Esdeath.
Hello.
Howdy. That first one was Esdeath. The last one was me. For those of you who are not addicted podcast viewers of the other three podcasts.
All right.
Well, we have a ton of stuff to kick off this week for topics. The big thing going to be is that the TCL Tournament Grand Finals happened, and Clan OP got to walk away with $350. Absolutely awesome. But it's my understanding that they still haven't been paid, and that there's some issue of communication with the staff.
Didn't that happen also in the Team Liquid thing too?
Yeah, it's my understanding that Team Liquid didn't pay out to those players either.
So can we talk about Esdeath doing community service and helping out newcomers, showing his softer side? Because he was helping out some new players this week. I saw it.
I mean, you gotta give back, now that I'm first in the ranks, finally. Not just first in skill, I gotta give back to the community.
So you feel that responsibility now, right? Now that you're number one,
Yeah.
you feel the responsibility to give back and to troll a little bit less. Now you feel the weight of the responsibility of being number one.
I feel that my trolling should be reserved to people who deserve my ire and my full attention when I play them. When it comes to the new players, you gotta build up their confidence. You gotta build up their skill set before you can actually start trolling them. That's what I feel like. You gotta build up people so that
So
later you can break them down.
There's an ethics behind the trolling.
There's an ethics. Like you can't just, you gotta savor in your potential kill. You can't just go in there and kill a baby deer. You gotta wait for it. You gotta feed it. You gotta let it grow up. When it's in its prime, when it has like 16 or 18 points. That's when you get it. You don't get it when it's young. You gotta teach it. You gotta care for it.
You gotta fatten it up.
You gotta fatten it up. That's what I feel. My community services and my teaching people is.
So that's your message to your legion of fans, to ethical trolling.
So instead of teaching to get better, you're taking them out to like all-you-can-eat Happy Meals.
Yeah, basically. I mean, no, but like, let's nah, it's not a Happy Meal. Let's just say it's let's just say it's like Outback Steakhouse. So when I get them like a prime steak, quality fattening,
Okay, I can see that. Is McDonald's sponsoring our podcast now, or are we just mentioning that?
No. Whataburger sponsors my podcasts whenever I do them, which I don't. But Whataburger, it's a great fucking place to eat when you're fat and you feel like you need to get fatter.
I like how you're plugging your podcast that you're not currently doing, but it's still a plug. You get it in there. Maybe you'll start it up again.
I've never done a podcast, so I'm just joking. It was a joke.
Oh, man.
Okay.
So what would you like to share with some of the newer players that might be tuning in tonight and watching? Like, what would your message be to them as they try to improve?
All right. So when I started playing Civ 6, I was all the way back to last September when it came out, I think. Or was it October? I can't really remember. But October, yeah. I got it the first day, and I played on the public games. You got to enjoy that experience of how people constantly quit games early. But I think through what I had to do was play just a shit ton of multiplayer games. I didn't really play single player because I'm a relatively quick learner when it comes to strategy games, since I played StarCraft, what's it called? The Heroes of the Storm. I just played StarCraft since Brood War. I played Age of Kings when I was like 6 or whatever. Age of Empires, Rise of Nations. I grew up on strategy games, so for those who didn't, I would suggest maybe some single player and to watch people who stream their games, who have them recorded on their Twitches on YouTube, watch players who are known to be good in multiplayer, and watch what they do and try to understand why they do it, so that you can add those skills that they have to your own skill set. So if you see someone going mining and then bronze working, there's a reason for those players to do that instead of rushing sailing or rushing astrology, or rushing some other tech that's not vital towards militarization early. Because in this game, having a military up early is vital to you not getting killed by turn 30. That would be my first message to people. Watch other people play in Twitch and YouTube. And
was the public lounge where you honed your trolling skills? I would think that'd be
the public games.
That's where you really honed your skills of trolling, right?
I had 1,200 hours of playing Civ 6 before I joined this league in February or March, whenever it was. So I was already ingrained, and I knew the build order approximately. I knew how to troll people before I got here. But
so you didn't play Civ 5 or 4 or any of the other ones?
I played, I think I had maybe 300 hours in Civ 5, but only think I played 2 games multiplayer, and everything else just was single player mods, just to, just enjoy and I guess kind of faff around.
That's cool that you played Rise of Nations, because I always think of that Rise of Nations as like a real-time version of Civ 4. Or just Civ in general.
I've never played Civ 4, so I wouldn't know.
Rise of Nations, right?
Of course. I loved playing Russia in Rise of Nations.
Ask somebody that's played them both, and they'll tell you it is like, well, it's just like a Civilization, but in a real-time form. Because the guy who, Soren Johnson, he worked on Civ 4, and then he worked on Rise of Nations. So clearly he brought like a lot of the kind of themes over there, but in a real-time form.
Yeah, I really enjoyed playing Rise of Nations. I used to play with my dad before he stopped playing games, but that was a lot of fun. And then getting some friends over to play LAN. Yeah, those are good times. Rise of Nations definitely was a game ahead of time. Sorry?
Was your dad a genius like you at game?
He's actually really good at chess, and my grandfather was third in the entire country of Yugoslavia way back when.
That's Harambe, by the way. Like he's kind of like a gorilla wandering in and out of this podcast as he sees fit.
He's currently waging guerrilla warfare on this podcast.
Well, it's like where does the 800-pound gorilla sit? Anywhere they want. So he does what he pleases. We can't keep him out of the war. We can't keep him in. He's just gonna do what he wants.
1.
I am your overlord.
Beware. Shake off the chains of oppression.
And the MVP of the CCC, which he won't stop reminding us about.
Jeez. So, how many of you guys know about the upcoming tournament for the Tournament of Champions that Blade has been really pushing on here?
4, 3.
I just heard about it through
1.
PMs the other day.
I had not heard. Is it a teamer?
It's a lot of events.
It's a lot of different events incorporated to it, but it's going to be a 7-week event, with the last week being only for those that got the highest scores out of their other weekly events that's been going on. And you only need to play in 3. You don't need to get every single weekend off in order to get into the finals.
Are they going to be duels? Or is it no duels or duels? Or
I don't think we're doing duels. I think it's going to be events to fit enough player, like the same amount of players in every game. Or I think there'll be teamers. I'm not sure though.
I'm on a count because Yoshi said he thought I would say the word duel at least 30 times. So I'm on a count right now. That's 2.
Well, whatever it is, it's going to be fun. And I'll be there playing and murdering people. So Yeah, in any form, whatever the format is, just count on me eliminating people.
And you guys will take me up. You're not afraid to take me on in the duel in the nuclear mod?
Oh, I'm not playing you. No. I'm afraid of you, Louis. You're the only person I'm afraid to play.
Oh, dude, he beat Automation.
He beat fucking Automation. Oh man, that was something to hear.
I guess that's my claim to fame. Even though I will admit there was a lot of lucky events that took place to help me with my victory. Mostly that he didn't know how the scoring worked for religious victories, because nobody does religious stuff, so that's understandable. That was my greatest weapon.
I think I told you before. The last time I lost a religious victory was way back in November in a public game where I didn't know that either, but you would think that someone of Automation's caliber would understand every single victory condition in this game.
No, he understands the victory condition. He just didn't know how the score works. See, he saw 1/2 and he thought I'm halfway to religious victory, but that just means I've converted my
civ over of the two.
Yeah, so that was probably the biggest factor that helped me win, and the fact that he did the civic that spread religions faster in your cities, but it just spread my religions in his cities faster too.
Yeah, but it's not a deceiving. It's not deceiving. It says exactly what it says. It says how many civs does your religion is predominant in. It's not lying at all. It's not trying to trick you. It says what it says.
No, I'm just saying, but if he hadn't have misunderstood that, I'm assuming he probably would have beaten me. That's all I'm saying.
You think he would have rushed you?
Or he just would have known I was closer to victory. I'm assuming he probably would have done something. So I'm just saying that, I'm just going to say that's a big part of my victory.
So I got a question for you, Esdeath, and you, Harambe, since you're here as well. What do you tell the people? They get mediocre or not very good land for production. They don't have horses. They're like, okay, I scouted. My neighbor has horses. I'm gonna tech bronze working. Oh shit, I have no iron. What do you tell those people? Like, what should they be trying to do at that point?
Are you saying no iron or horses at all in any of your cities?
No iron, no horses. Not even a 1-1 for an encampment.
Find them, or you're gonna need pretty much. You're probably dead long term, but you want to tech. You're probably gonna need walls. You're gonna need archers. You're gonna need warriors fortified with a lot of support bonuses, which means every unit you have next to a unit for up to 6 units gives you +2 on support. So fortification is gonna give you some bonuses to your defense, and the terrain you're on is gonna give you some support. So use those and use the archers as something to fire on your attacker. If you can get a spearman out, which they're quite high production, but if you can get a spearman in a nice little choke point, you'd want to do that. It all depends on your land layout too, how much access the other player has. If you're being invaded by 12 horses and you're just in an open field, you're probably going to die long term. But if you have some mountainous terrain, if you have a lot of hills, if you have a little passive, 1 tile, 2 tile, yeah, you can hold those for a while. You just need the units fortified before they get there, and you need extra units.
That brings up mirror maps. Are there not mirror maps built into the game, or do you have to get those through
mod? No, they're through mods.
There are mirror maps. It's the 4-leaf clover, and the 6-1, like those. But
so
those
how come people don't play on those more?
They're funny. They're kind of fun and wonky.
They gained popularity a long time ago, and it seems people just kind of got tired of them because it's the same thing. I think one of the best things about random generation maps is, it can be unbalanced. There's a lot of balance issues with this game, considering someone could get tea, which is a 2 food, 1 science resource, and someone could get spices on Plains Hills with the forest that are 3/3 food and production. So I mean, balance is a huge issue, but exploration is fun. It's cool to not know your map and to do
If somebody could make a mod that would generate a mirror map randomly, that would be awesome. If I don't know how would you do that, but
Das Gutenbrot of DI is working on some things like that, but it's a lot of coding, and there's just a lot of little
because you guys are so
things
good,
I
right,
have to
that
deal with.
you guys are so good that you said like when you have a bad start, that like if you play you guys Esdeath versus Harambe and you get a bad start in a duel or something like that, or even in a free for all, you're gonna probably lose because he's not gonna make enough mistakes for you to overcome your bad start.
Probably not if you have two comparable skill players, but
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
if it's the same. If it's two players of the same skill and one of them has a really shitty start, doesn't have even.
you can always outplay someone though. So I mean, like
you can
never
what?
know. You can always outplay someone, but if people play it right, they don't make too many mistakes, you'll probably win.
If there was a tournament and you guys did duels and it was 4 out of 7, do you think the better player would win most of the time out of 4 out of 7 duel format?
No, it's too variable. It's too
The
variable.
map.
You need to do like at least like 30 games for it to be kind of representative.
So it would be even if you had a similar map and same civs, but you
The
know,
problem is
with a
there's
randomly
so
generated
many-
map, it's probably whoever gets the best city, states, and land.
There's just way too many variables on every map roll. You would need a huge sample size to say it's balanced at that point.
Yep. It's just like where those 3 city states are spawned. Like, what happens if you spawn in the middle of the map and the 3 city states are to your right, your enemy player is to your left? So the player on your left is completely screwed out of meeting those 3 city states. And what if you have better production? What if you have 2 horses or 2 iron or good campus spots or
So
good rivers?
if you guys dueled on the 4-leaf clover, though, since you haven't memorized that map, that would be a legitimate like 4 out of 7 match, wouldn't it?
I mean, I know the map. I've played it a shit ton in public games where it's just who can rush settlers to the mid, basically. If you can get a road quickly to the first settled city you have in the middle, and then you can pump 2 or 3 more cities in the middle, and that you basically won the game.
So is that partly why you guys don't like duels, because it's just not enough of a strategy, because you guys know it's all down to this meta and you guys both know what it is, and it's not as interesting as a large game anymore for you guys?
Yeah, I'm just letting you know, Harambe is currently deafened. But yeah, I'll answer for him since we both agree on this. Duels are, like, especially against with 2 people with the same skill, it's basically who spawns with a better map. If it's not mirror, if it's mirror, it's just who can out efficiency.
Then there's, of course, first moving.
And first moving, of course. I mean, there's ways to try to get around first moving, like trying to last move instead of first move, anticipate the first move. Like, I rarely get first moves against people unless I'm hosting. And
what if you played a duel on a bigger map, so each person had time to build up a little bit?
Then the game is 4 hours or 3 hours of just sim citying, and then you're fighting, and whoever SimCity is better, whoever has better land layout for their SimCity.
I'd say the only fair duel is on a mirrored map. The only good side of a random gen map is that people like exploration. It's unknown, so you can't just study the map and know the best strategy. You have to make it up as you go, and you can find some interesting, strategies based on that. One unorthodox strategy was to never get Merchant Republic because it takes away the 100% experience for scouts, and you farm city-states with scouts and other units to take the blow, get them to level 4, and then you upgrade them to recon later, so they have plus 20 in all combat situations, which is 85 damage. They're invisible unless next to another unit. You can move them after attacking, and they're ranged, so when you're assaulting like a city, say with a
on land.
Yeah, if you're assaulting a city with tank defense, you're not going to take damage when you're attacking because they are ranged. So they're very powerful. They can kill tanks, modern armor, if you get them inside.
That's like part of your point of pride for you guys, right? It's like, there's imbalances, but whoever finds them first is sort of like, that's like an honor, right? Like I found
that's not an imbalance. That's
no.
everyone can do.
I'm just saying the rifleman meta is stupid.
But I'm saying it come up
takes
with that
too much
like
effort.
Nah, I think if you have the right situation, you can do it. Like if you have the city-state Kabul, it's a good situation.
I know, but the thing is, Harambe, you need to expend the extra effort when the other person. I mean, yeah, you can technically do it in very few amount of games, but in most games, it's going to come down to the cavalry cannon push. And if
I
you
don't
lose,
disagree. It's a side project you can do.
it's a side project you can do in very few games, and I've
But in the
yet to
games that
find
you
a game
can,
where
it's
I
pretty
can.
good.
No, I'm just saying that sort of that shows some creativity. If you find out something broken in the game that nobody else has found, that's something you get a couple of wins on it. But you still had to figure that out. That took a lot of thought to figure out that this
I
was
don't think
broken.
it's
Like
broken.
with the scouts or with the scouts,
I
and
don't think
maybe
it's
later
broken.
it's considered cheesy, but you still the one that found
No.
it. So I think that's something
It's
to
not
be proud
It's
of.
not broken.
It's
I
not
think
cheesy or broken. How is it broken if everyone can do it?
Using an
It's
example,
not
I mean,
broken.
if you found something that was broken, but you're the first to find it, that's still some kind of point of pride that you found the broken thing.
Well, it's not
Well,
broken though. What makes
No,
it what is
that's
broken?
not broken. That's not broken. I'm just saying as an example.
Well, speaking of things that are cheesy, or at least regarded as cheesy in the league right now. So, in a raise-only game for city-states, your suzerain of the city-state, you move your combat units and you upgrade them in the city-state's territory. Declare, so the units are automatically pushed out, and you take the city-state the next turn with your promoted or upgraded units.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
I don't either, but it's been a contention point lately.
Those people are wrong. Then those are just a horrible thought. I mean,
The issue is
what's
that you
illegal with
can
it?
never war your own CS if you ban that, so I don't think it should ever be banned.
I mean, think about it this way: like
cheesy, it is irritating, but it happens, and we've contacted Fire Access to try to remove the auto peace function from the game when a suzerain declares war. So hopefully they'll get back to us and
I
fix.
think you and I are talking about two separate issues at this point, Harambe. What I'm
we're
saying is,
Harambe, we're talking about if you promote your units in a city that you're suzerain of, and then once you promoted them, in the same turn you declare war on it. So the next turn you can hit it with your upgraded swords or your upgraded muskets or your upgraded calves or etc. etc. We're not talking about the one where you can declare war on your suzerain that will push out enemy units out. We're not talking about that one.
So what's the problem with promoting units? I don't know.
Nothing. It's just some people don't like it.
a lot of people don't seem to like it, and I thought it was worth
What?
mentioning tonight.
It doesn't make sense. You can promote units anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's
I
like,
mean,
think
upgrade.
about it this way.
I call it promoting, but
Can you upgrade in your own suzerain's territory?
yes, you can.
Okay. So yeah, I mean,
it's
that's
treated
just
in the same way as an alliance
it's
territory.
just a valid strat, and it's a good strat.
If you can't conquer the city, if you can't take the city over, you don't, and you're the suzerain, you want to keep it right for the bonuses. There's no benefit to just destroying it, is there?
Not always.
It depends. It's very situational.
I mean, if that city occupies a placement that you can instead make two cities of your own kind and settle them, that's a good thing.
Or if it just has good tiles, like if it has,
Yeah.
I saw City State with 3 spices yesterday in the game. Which spice, if you didn't know, are like the best tiles,
I
basically.
don't care if that thing's Stockholm; it's gonna die.
No. I'd keep Stockholm.
It all depends on what I need in the game, and also one thing I consider when killing a city state is I like gold city states a lot, but also I like more cities. So it all depends on other players' access. If they have access to it, they're probably gonna kill it, unless they're gonna try to make the benefits as well.
Would you guys ever play a game where you just can't attack the city states? That way, it's all about getting the bonuses, and you're not allowed to.
No.
We've added that function.
Because I think that would be interesting. Because I like.
You can
I
attack
think they
them, but
intended
you
you
have
to
to
get all
raise.
these bonuses, but if you guys always
No.
just take them out really quickly, they don't get any
Because
bonus.
they if you can't attack a city state, you may as well just get rid of them because they can just block you from like other parts of the world.
They just make. Have you ever seen a city state make like 17 warriors by turn 20 something, and it just floods the entire map, so
But
you
it would
can't
still
ever
be.
pass
It would
through
still be a battle for getting the most. Getting the most
but it's
Called
blocking you from moving.
Yeah, what if you're in
units.
a corner with like 2 city-states around you and you can't get through them? Then you're done.
Or and they're in such a way that you can't get any freshwater settles, or hell, settles in general. For aqueduct settles, I mean, it
It
depending
could block you from another civ.
like you would be irrelevant on turn 0.
And it can happen. Spawns can just make you lose the game immediately. Like, but they don't always. And better players, if they have a less percentage chance of winning, they can increase that chance just by doing the right steps.
I remember this one Philly game I played with him, where he was Rome, and he got completely shafted on his spawn. He got tundra under him, desert above him, coasts on 3 sides, and mountain range covering the other side. It's not covered by coast. And north of him, he had me, and I was America, and he was on my continent, and I had 2 horses. To his east, there's a 1-tile pass connecting him between the mountains to Gorgo, and it was in tundra also. And if he played it right and he legioned Gorgo instead of 2 horse attacked Gorgo, he would have won.
Wait, back up a step. Why would you use horses against Gorgo?
He wanted to chop out and quickly move there. He didn't want those slow-moving legions going across. He wanted to catch that Gorgo player who he thought was a noob, because we both never played with him before. He thought he was a noob, and he hit him. Oh, yeah, this is a war game, so I thought he was a noob also, and I assumed that Philly was going to hit him instead of me, since I was America on my continent, and me and Philly had a 2-tile choke, and he knew. I would assume he would know that I would block him off. So I saw that Philly started hitting, and he took over that frontal city by like turn 22 with horses. But by the time he took that first frontal city, Gorgo had 2 other cities that had good production behind him, and he started just 2-turn dropping hoplites. And this is where if just an example of good players, if Philly went legions instead, he would have been able to kill Gorgo, and then there was a half the map to his east that was just all city states that he could have horsed or legion to his heart's desire, even with the extremely crappy start he got. But he played it wrong, and he got an irrelevancy vote in turn 43, I think. So even with shit starts, you can get out of it if you just pay attention to all the details in the game.
So when you're irrelevant, it's okay to let the AI take over. You don't need a sub.
You need to have people
The vote.
vote you out. As in,
Usually we get a sub for the game, though.
Technically, you're not breaking the rules if an AI takes over if you're irrelevant, if you can't find a sub.
Well,
No, you have to get a vote from the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying
large
if the whole
majority.
if the game votes you irrelevant, then it's okay to put an AI in your place
That
if you
is
can't.
yes,
what,
because
that is what irrelevancy is.
Yep, because you are completely irrelevant to the game. You cannot really do anything to significantly influence the game in any way, which Philly in that case was, because the Gorgo player, who was supposedly new, wasn't as new as we all thought, and he just made a lot of hoplites, and by the time Philly backed it up with legions, those hoplites had the +10 thrust promotion. So those hoplites became 45 strength hoplites, and then with their defensive bonus, with support bonus,
Like 60-ish.
yeah, and then the legions get a +10 against anti-cav, but his legions,
It's not enough.
it's not enough. They actually don't even beat hoplites when they're when they're fortified and support
bonus, yeah, and
So
promotion.
That's absolutely insane.
Like the stacking ban is it important of a ban when you're playing with 8 people? Because you know one player's
What do you
not going
mean?
to really get.
What's stacking ban?
Generals.
Yeah, is that as big a deal in an 8-player game? Because one person's not going
It
to be able to
is
get all.
because Japan gets half encampment builds, and also you have a medieval general, so there's going to be about 5 to 6 generals, including the classicals, because classicals both classical, medieval, and then medieval Renaissance. So you're going to have about 5 to 6 of those. So
But is somebody
Sales,
really going to
Persia,
get like a huge percentage
yes, someone will go for that.
of
Someone will,
them too?
well, no, not necessarily, but Japan has half-built encampments. Whoever has great land and a lot of forest to chop will have dibs on them. And the problem is, say, a Persia gets 3 generals, so they get +2 movement when they war someone. So technically, +3 from those 3 generals, they're gonna have knights or 4 movement. So they're gonna have knights
So
with
just never. It's always going to be banned.
+9.
No stacking.
Yeah, +9.
You're never going to allow stacking generals. That's just going to always be banned.
No, because some people don't have the luxury of going for generals. Their land just doesn't.
I'm not playing with general stacking ever. Even if I can general stack, I'm not playing it. It's not there.
Only the CCC has it where you have to keep them in your territory. You guys usually allow them to go wherever they want, the generals.
No, we have a vote system. You can ban them. You can keep them in. Well, we're talking about classical generals. You can ban them, or you can keep them in your territory for defense or offense. You could buy tiles out and put your general out further, or take cities and transfer them. Or you can have them unbanned.
Are they usually banned? Does not let them go
People
anywhere.
People have started liking to ban them a lot, but I mean, I would say 40% of the time they're maybe 45, 50% of the time they're banned, and then the rest of the time is split.
You can't even build a classic general if they're like that kind of banned. You mean?
Yeah, and then the rest of the time it's going to be in borders or unbanned. Probably the other 50%.
I mean, some of them are worth, like, one of them's worth picking up, even if they are banned, and that's Sun Tzu, because you can turn them into a great work for some free culture.
Yeah.
It's like to focus on alternative victory. Is anybody doing, like, culture wins? I know the people aren't doing too many religious wins.
They're not realistic.
So I've only culture won once, and that was in the other league. And I was Gorgo, and I killed off Usmip, who was Japan, who was warmongering me, trying to kill my city-states. And it was Caesop, who was this other Pericles, next to Usmip. But I ruled Usmip, and I was on 12, 13 cities. And I had good production. Like, you have to have good production in hills. Like, my capital was a Ruhr city. Like, I knew my capital would be a good city for Ruhr Valley by turn 13, turn 14. And then since you half build your acropolises, I had them everywhere. I had a good portion of my cities just doing the projects, and I just got a lot of great works. I actually did archaeologists, and I got a lot of those things, shipwrecks and other artifacts.
So is it a viable?
My tourism.
No, it is not viable.
It's not viable at all.
You could.
So it's not. It's kind of broken. Then it's not. And when you guys play, a good player is not going to be able to pull it off. I mean, you guys will stop it. It's not a viable victory option.
I've only seen a cultural victory in
I got it once.
I know Harambe's gotten it once that I know of. I've seen Philly get it once. I've seen maybe 1 or 2 others in the league, and I wasn't there for those games. I just saw them get reported, and someone was talking about it.
And what about? Isn't it? It's very, very hard to get a religious victory in like an 8-player game. I imagine.
Oh yeah.
I've never seen a religious victory in
even in a diplomacy game, like in a full-on diplomacy game, some people will war you just for seeing an emissary move towards their territory.
It'd be easier if you couldn't kill them with non-religious units, but you can just step on a unit, and it actually gets rid of some of their influence on your city as well.
So if they made it so that you couldn't attack if you could only attack the religious units with other religious units, that would make it much more.
What I would do, what happens then is I just spam scouts out of a high production city.
And just surround it.
And then just surround my cities with scouts, so you can never convert them.
Religious is more possible, but it's not as possible as going high science and killing people.
But if they could move through units and you couldn't attack them with except for religious units, it would be a lot better, more viable.
It'd be cool if religious units could move through regular units. I think that'd be a good addition.
If you could only
I mean-
attack them with religious units.
Well,
The
that
thing is,
too,
though,
both of those,
I
I
mean,
think.
if I declare war, if the game was changed, so I couldn't just kill religious units with military units. What would still be a problem is if I declare war on them, would those religious units be locked by zone of control, or would they be able to move through my military units? Now, if they can't move through my military units, that's great because I body block them with my. I just make a military line, and they can't get through. So I can take my time, build up my own religion, do some projects for it, and then
somebody's got some work to do. Somebody's got to do some modding because basically you guys are saying 2 of the victory conditions are just not really even existent. Basically, almost.
Yeah, they're completely shit. Science victory is the second most. Yeah, science victory is the second most. No, I'd say military and science are basically around the same.
I'd say science is the highest victory because you're killing people to get science victory, but typically people concede before science or domination victory. It's who has the most techs, most gold production.
When people see someone way out of hand with science, the CC is happening because they know they can't attack them because their military tech superiority is going to kick in almost immediately.
The game is over.
And 2, they're going to get space race. So you can just count those CC games as space race victories at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that player's not going to go reach out and conquer someone. He's going to turtle until he starts kicking stuff into space.
In one sense, the religious and the cultural does play a role because when you have a game end with a score, that's helping your score, right? If you have a bunch of religion and culture.
I mean, yeah, but it's everything factors in. I'd say empire is probably the biggest factor, which is like cities, tiles, I forget what else, but population. That's probably the biggest contributor. And
districts.
Taking over other civs is the biggest score generator there is. Great people are also big, so Congo's pretty good for score.
Wonders are good if you're
Yeah,
China.
wonders
you can
are
wonder
5e.
for your way to like a high position because you just make like 10 wonders and then your score is 50 points higher.
But so are you guys hopeful, like year 2 or 3, that there'll really be some good mods to fix some of these problems?
I mean, if they fix mods, just modding being a horrible, having a horrible effect in multiplayer, yeah, that'd be great. Because having mods enabled sometimes messes with the game heavily, and it lags it out and
makes it really unstable.
But so you guys aren't that hopeful that that there will be good mods in the future? You think it's still going to be buggy? It's not going to be a big part of the game ever.
I care about mods. I care about them fixing mods first, like on Firaxis and them.
Yeah, I don't think
the game.
Firaxis took into account the multiplayer development of this game and the fact that we're the biggest league and we've created a league where people can play real competitive games. They accounted for good single-player games for people to enjoy by themselves, in which those victory conditions are viable. I mean, they don't have a huge amount of staff on hand that they can hire to just come in and test this game. They have a lot of games 2K has a lot of games to worry about. So
what about Civ? I didn't play
take
much.
Into account all these factors.
I didn't play much Civ 4. I never got that good at it, but I wonder if there's people that were really good at it. If it was a lot better than Civ 6 in terms of at the end, was it really like balanced? I just wondered. I don't know myself.
There's some good things in Civ 4. I heard there was a thing that delayed the turns from starting once people are loading into them for like 10 seconds, so that everybody can load in and get to start their turn on the same turn.
So I mean, do you think it was pretty good then? I mean, you didn't play Civ 4, did you, or you guys didn't play it? But do you think, from what you heard,
was it pretty, tail end of Civ 5? I heard Civ 4 was great, and I heard Civ 5 they broke some things, or maybe it was both Civ 4 and 5.
Civ 4 at the end was pretty balanced multiplayer, like better than Civ 6 is now.
I couldn't tell you, to be honest. I'm not really.
The person who asked those questions too would probably be Canuck because he was still running the CPL at that time.
Civ 3 even, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's over 17 years old as a community, which is absolutely huge to see in such a game market where multiplayer is such a minority. but it's growing, and it's growing quickly. Like in the CPL alone, we have over 2,500 games played that are ranked and cataloged. That doesn't include all the ones that are on the side that people do that aren't ranked.
Yeah, we also lost a large amount of our game history at one point. So there's even more. Probably a couple thousand.
Was Canuck a tester on Civ 3? I heard, or I thought he mentioned he was involved in the testing of Civ 3s for some reason. But I'm not positive about that.
I'm not sure, to be honest. We know testers, but
I'd love to be a tester. Just if anyone hears that, I'd love to test anything Civ related.
Shameless plug.
But
they need people who are a little quieter, so they don't go and tell everything, though.
Sarnith was saying that you didn't see that happening too much because it's too locked down with the NDAs and everything.
Yeah, non-disclosure agreements.
You don't see this bringing you guys in, you top players in to help out with Civ 6.
I mean, that's up to 2K. That's their call, and they do sign non-disclosure agreements, which they could sue you for millions of dollars if you break.
Dude,
because they're protecting their brand.
They're protecting their property rights on the game.
Maybe we got to get Canuck to talk to. We got to get Canuck to, because I know he does talk to Ed Beach sometimes. So we got to get, if it ever happened, it would have to be Canuck brokering some kind of deal to send some of our top guys over there.
Quite a ways down the road, but I mean, we do have a very good relationship with some people that have worked with Firaxis and 2K in the past, and I can't really say whether or not we have some with their current employee structure, but I mean, it just goes to show that in the past we've been very much trusted by the company for our opinion. They put a lot of thought into what they do, and they very much consider what we have to say. We're constantly sending them logs with bugs detailing what happened, what turns, and it does help. They do appreciate it, and they have reached out to us for it because of that.
Yeah, that just brings up for me, why is it that what's wrong? Like, they put those mods in, specifically these multiplayer 50 turn mods. Why isn't anybody playing them? I don't. That's what I don't understand.
What mods? The single player mods?
There's specifically like 4 or 5 of these fast multiplayer mods, but I never see anybody play them. I played them one time. I played the Ancient Rivals, and I always try to get people to the nuclear.
It's just, people play them on their own typically because those are mostly single player.
Why wouldn't you guys find it interesting to play them? It's too short, why is none of the top?
For me, it's too short. It's not. There's not too much variation. It's just not fun to me because there's not too many things that I can do differently.
I'd say Global Thermonuclear is probably the coolest looking mod there is, though. But yeah, I mean, I like competitive games with people of equal skill.
But like the nuclear one at first, just because it's so crazy that you guys wouldn't be familiar with it, right? It would take a little time just to get used to it.
I'm familiar with it, but it's
you have played it some.
I'm not opposed to it.
I mean, you got to remember though, the CPL is primarily a hub for competitive players in the Civ 6 multiplayer scene. Now we do have a lot of games that are played unranked that people do just for fun, and some of those include those mods. We do have staging rooms for that, and people do use them. They're just not as popular, so it looks like they aren't played that much. And in the grand scheme of things, sure, they're not compared to the thousands of free-for-all games and teamer games we have cataloged, but they do happen. You have to be willing to go out there and reach out to people saying, hey, I'm trying to get it. Like, for example, Canuck did a Premier League game for a Renaissance start. And people were kind of...
No, we're doing that.
That's this
weekend? Doing that tomorrow. That's tomorrow.
The Medieval start was last weekend.
I sold him on Renaissance start. I sold him on
I just want to see it happen.
So, I think here's the thing, Louis. Here's the thing. You have to be like, when it comes to getting people in a different type of game, you have to be the leader. You have to start it up, and you have to advertise it, and you may get hits, you may get misses. You're trying to get people to play. That's my goal. I'm going to try to before within a month or two. I want to try to get an 8-player nuclear mod going because I think that'd be crazy. I want to see it.
Heck, you don't even have to wait that long. Like, you could do it over the weekend.
Because that would be a good game if I think that would be a good game for Sarnith to stream because all this nukes going off all over the place.
Oh, dude, there's nothing more satisfying than watching nukes fly around the map.
Yeah, so imagine you casting an 8-player free for all and watching Esdeath and Philly launching nukes at each other.
Oh, dude, I got the last nuke off of in Philly. I got the last time me and Philly got into a nuke off. I nuked Philly, but I lost because Philly had an ally.
Smokey came in and after sitting in the corner.
Basically, Swaki could have ended the game 3 hours earlier if he just told me when I asked him. I was like, dude, are you gonna nuke me or Philly? Like, are you gonna just stay out of it and go for a quick science victory? Because Swaki was gonna get first no matter what, but he wasted 3 hours of our time by nuking me instead of just saying, "Oh, I'm gonna nuke you," as that 3 hours early when I asked him, and I said, okay, "I can CC to you right now if you just say you're gonna nuke me." Whenever you get him.
He wanted the satisfaction of nuking you.
No, he said he didn't want you to be prepared. That was his reasoning, which is valid, but he could have saved time because you would have.
But I already admitted that I'd CC to him, though. Like I said, I'll CC to you right now.
Got out-trolled. He out-trolled you by making you waste 3 hours of your time.
But the thing is, though, that's just being an asshole. That's not trolling. Because that's wasting that's wasting real time that you could have been spending doing something else. Trolling is like, well, you're already playing, you're already committing the time, might as well. But
he believed in it so much. He believed in trolling so much that he was willing to waste his own time. You gotta kind of admire that.
Oh, you mean the kamikaze? No, I don't admire the kamikazes like I don't admire the Japanese pilots who suicided their planes into American ships. I do not admire that.
Maybe an hour would have been his point would have been made. Maybe 3 was probably a little much.
I know it was definitely 3 because thing is though, I'm a veteran enough player too. I can see what's gonna happen. I know what's gonna happen, and I was like, dude, the game's yours. It's between me and Philly now for second. Choose now who gets second, or so you don't waste our next 3 hours. And he decided to waste our next 3 hours.
And you couldn't get a vote. You couldn't get people to agree to vote to just
no. Philly didn't want to call it, and that was enough because me and Philly were neck and neck for second. Svaki was way ahead in first, so he had really no say. Everyone else wanted to call.
So maybe in a subtle way, Philly was pulled off a good troll on you, if you think about it.
It was a Diplo Plus game. So wait, was it Diplo Plus or Diplo? I think it was a Diplo game, but you can nuke your friends and allies in that game, so it doesn't matter. But it's just that there's trolling and then there's wasting 3 hours of everyone's time, not just someone's.
So what is up with you and Philly? Was there always bad blood, or were you friends at first and then it all went wrong? What's the story behind it?
How do we go? Let's see.
I think we should change subjects.
No. Everyone wants to hear the gossip talk, the girl talk behind me and Philly. No, me and Philly were. I think at the beginning we were just acquaintances, whatever, and then we got kind of close, nice. I learned from him at the very beginning when I joined the league because I didn't know much, and I mean I didn't know enough to play with everyone and not get murdered. I think my first game of the league, I got second, and it wasn't just against random people; it was actually against decent people. And I watched Philly, I watched Harambe streaming, I watched Red Phoenix when he was still around. And I learned from all 3. I incorporated what they were doing, like the heavy cav rush, that spam gold, pre-build, the shit ton of horses, all that. And I incorporated the best qualities of whatever I saw and incorporated into my own gameplay. And eventually, I started climbing the ladder, and I started being way more aggressive and let's just say a little bit more shit talking than the average good player. And I think eventually the combination of me beating Philly more and more than before him beating me when I was still relatively new to the league, and me still kind of shit talking, not just him, but just everyone really, got to him way more than it got to other people. And he started to actually just, pent up a little bit of rage and
easily triggered.
He was
And
triggered, but it's like
he
he
considers
shitboxed
that
me.
he considers losing to somebody him being targeted, which is a
Yeah,
flaw.
but
He can't
yeah, but
humbly
the thing
admit
is, like,
loss.
he shit talks and I shit talk. I don't take it to heart, and he took it to heart, and he carried it with him. I quickly lose the whole thing. Like, if someone 4v1s me, let's just say, like, Rom got 2 other people to 3v1 me in a game, where I could have won and gotten first, or instead I got fourth. But I took them all down with me, and it got them spots under me. I didn't say, Rom, I'm never playing games with you. I'm like, Rom, I won't play Diplo games with you. But I still play Diplo games. But I still play Diplo games with them again. So difference is, like, I say that, but like the next couple hours, I'm like, nah, I'll still play with you. But Philly means it, though. He means it.
Since we're doing the show live, I just want to notice that Agathy is just said in the chat room that he's going to host the 50-turn nuclear mod. So I'm not going to take credit for that, but I'm just pleased that it's happening. Trying to happen.
I've never played it, but I might be interested in looking up on it and then maybe playing in it.
I mean, there you go.
Yeah, he's
That
trying
just
to start
goes
one right now,
show
so
that
that's
the
cool.
people are kind of interested. They're just on the fence about it, like with the Renaissance start thing that they're doing tomorrow. And I was thinking of the medieval start game that they did. And
I think the Renaissance start is way better than medieval, because Renaissance start basically makes it so that you've already teched towards muskets and field cannons, not just caps. You already have been forced to tech that, so that you can have muskets up way before you can have cav, and kind of makes the cav rush not as lethal, because you need to spend the time to macro out cities and not just spam horses in that time, you know?
Yeah, and he's got like 6 people in the room. Maybe my 8-turn person is going to happen just before my eyes. I spoke of it, and it just I'll take credit for it, even though it's not really for me. But I can take credit for it anyway. Nobody can stop me. I'm just happy. I'm just always happy to see new kind of games being played. That always makes me happy.
oh yeah, no, there's a lot of new game types are going to be incorporated in future events and tournaments that we're holding. It's an evolving process, and it's already come a long way in a very short time. We have hundreds of players from all over the world. We have communities forming with people volunteering as translators, and it's just making everything grow more and more. And as that happens, you'll have more cultures coming in. You'll have more game types from that, because everyone's
And I
going to
think
bring
I get
in
it
their own
now.
ideas.
Like I'm gonna play more FFAs now. I think I finally hit me why the duels aren't as cool for you guys. I don't think it ever registered in my brain that it was just like it just wasn't deep enough. Like it's too much.
Well,
It
imagine
matters for me, but now you guys explained it to me, and now I understand why you don't want to duel as much.
Imagine an 8-man FFA as a duel with everyone. So you duel someone, then you win, and then another person comes to duel you. That's how we see it, and it's a lot more intensive and a lot more in-depth, and you're going to have to think about, like, long-term, like, okay, I wore this guy and I beat him, but can I handle the next neighbor, or can I handle 2 neighbors? If I get way too ahead and they see me as a threat and double-team me, you have to consider, like, a lot more than you have to consider in a duel. A duel
Yeah,
is
I think I
typically
get it
decided
now.
by best land, unless
I'll
it's
start
mirrored.
playing more. I'll start playing more FFAs now. I think it's hit. It just sometimes I just don't feel like doing like a 4 or 5 hour game, but they don't actually go that long. What do you think the average length of an 8-player FFA is?
3 to 6, maybe, but
I'm saying
7
the
to
average is
10 on
3
a
to
long
4.
game.
3 to 4 hours is the average.
Average is 3 to 4.
I need
It
to
can
get
go
in your
6.
games. My average is like 6 to 8.
Yeah, I say 3 to 6 is my average.
Mine's 3 to 4 because I murder people and there's a CC call.
I don't know. I'm a
mine will
lot
be
more
shorter.
aggressive of a player than I used to be, and it definitely changes the pace of the game.
You have to be, but you have to be at the right time. You can't
Yeah.
just like war someone who's way ahead
So
of you. Like,
speaking of the right times about things, let's talk about policy cards, right? When to switch them, when to use them, why do you use them? People just slot cards because they see some people like Philly, Sosuk, you know, some of our bigger streamers, King's Orient. You know, they slot these policy cards in, and people aren't really seeing the why. They just do it.
whatever yields the most benefits for you at that time. Some of the big early ones are 50% to
Efficiency.
settlers. There's the civil service card, which gives you 1 culture per district, which helps you get way ahead in the civic tree. Recorded history is good if you have good campus adjacencies because they double those. Mercenaries gives you 50% for upgrades. Those are the big early ones. Late game, Enlightenment is huge. It gives 100% to science building. So your universities are going to give you 8 science instead of 4. And libraries are 4 instead of 2. And yeah, I mean, there's other good ones too, like unit maintenance, which is -1 per unit. So if you're building 30 horses, that's 60 gold per turn. If you put that card on, it's only 30 gold per turn.
I'd say early on, you want to try to get political philosophy fast, so that you can
Yeah, for sure.
start spamming out settlers. If you feel like you're in a safe position, because with political philosophy, you have the option, not the option, but you have the chance to put in the urban planning card where you get 1 production in all your cities, and you get to put in that the 50% off of production for your settlers, and you can have multiple cities making settlers at a very quick rate, and that's very important for the early game expansion play. If you feel that you have a lot of room and people won't be coming after you. Otherwise, you can try to get horsemen and have 2 horse tiles worked very early. Go straight for military tradition, that civic, and have horse tech about done at the same time. And around turn 20, turn 21, you should have those basically done or close to done. To get military tradition boosted, you either need to kill barbarian camp, but since in CPL we don't play with barbarians, you want to maybe get a monument up in your first expansion city or in your capital where we can build it by around like turn 18, and then quickly use that extra culture to get military tradition. And then if you're able to, and this is a more high level play, have a couple builders, like a builder in each city that you currently have made, get on top of trees or tiles with woods on them, so they can chop out horsemen. When you have the 50% policy for light cavalry and heavy cavalry on, and then you can make a lot of horsemen really fast, really early, and start killing city-states and rushing other players. That is the current meta of the game. That is the strongest thing that you could possibly do by, in the first 30 turns
What
of the
about
game.
the governments? Is there a preferred government that people tend to use, or the first 3?
Yeah,
Oligarchy.
classical republic or oligarchy if you're going to war. Classical if you're doing a SimCity building game. But also,
I would say
policy
start off.
that is real quick. One other policy that's huge is feudalism. When you get the extra 2 charges per builder, you're getting 5 charges per builder instead of 3, so you can improve the rest of your land that you haven't done with your early builders.
What about
for that to add on to what Harambe just said? What you should do is right as you're about to hit feudalism, you should have 30% off builders card in, and in all your cities, you should be making builders. And then right as you're 1 turn away in those cities from finishing the builders, you switch to another production. Then right as you get feudalism, you put in that card to get 2 extra charges on your builders. Then have all your cities, switch all your cities back on to finishing the builder that was making. And now you have 2 extra charges, and those builders were built 30% cheaper in essence. So that's a good efficiency method of getting extra builders cheaper.
What about wonders? What are wonders that people tend to like to build, or are they not into wonders?
Apadana is good. It gives 2 envoys per wonder you build, which gives you envoy control. Colosseum is huge. It gives you 2 culture and 6 amenities per city within 6 tiles, which essentially doubles or 2.5 times your early culture.
2 culture and 3 amenities per city.
3 amenities, okay, yeah. So
Within a
it's
6
just
range.
very
6 tile
strong
range.
overall.
I would say, what else? Another pyramids are strong
Yeah,
because it increases builder charges for all builders, including the ones that are currently out and running about in your lands by 1, and permanently increases every other builder that's built by 1 charge. And also grants you a free builder with extra charge, so that's good.
yeah.
That's a great benefit for your entire game.
Yeah, so your feudals and builders will have 6 now instead of 5. And if you're China, you're going to have 7. And China does get dibs on most early wonders by chopping them out with builders.
Yep. Another good wonder is if you have a lot of desert hills in a city and you can get it out, building the Petra is great because those desert hills become better than regular hills. They become 2-2-2 tiles. They become 2 food, 2 production, and 2 gold. You build a mine
Petra
on
is
that.
especially strong on the natural wonder Uluru, which is an all desert with culture and faith on the tiles.
And then what about the civs that are getting banned? Is it still like Scythia? What are the most common ones? Like Scythia gets banned almost all the time.
Sumeria, Australia, and Gilgamesh. Or Sumeria, Australia, and Scythia, sorry.
Persia.
Gilgamesh gets war cards. Australia gets 100% production on ward, and Scythia gets double horses and heals 50 damage. Or now it's 30. They nerfed it, but the big part of the horse is double.
And it gives +5 damage against wounded units.
Yeah.
So is that the most broken? The most OP is Scythia?
Scythia is probably the most OP. They also get a horse archer unit, which is good for hitting walls so you don't take damage on your horses.
I'd also say Persia should be banned in a good chunk of games because you get a Persia, you get a decent enough spawn, you get 2 horses, the game's already over.
And what are the worst civs? What are the ones that are like the weakest?
France,
Spain,
Norway on a non-islands or fractal map.
India.
Norway on Pangea is weak.
France.
So England is England any good on a non-water?
England's great on any map, because you get a coastal spawn. You get 2 trade routes because your harbors are giving you a trade route. They build in half the time as a normal district.
Dockyard commercial.
Yeah. So you're gonna have a high gold generation, double trade routes because other civs can't get an extra trade route from harbors and commercials. They only get one from one or the other, whichever they build first. So England has that advantage now that they've patched that.
Also, even if it's not a map that has a lot of naval play, like Pangea, it can be good. As in, if you are on a continent and there's another continent next to you that's a different one, and you start settling on that continent, you get free melee units. You take cities on that continent, you get a free melee unit every single time you take it or retake the city. And once you get military science, you get a free red coat in every city you settle or take that's off your continent.
Yeah, and red coats are really strong.
75 damage off continent. So
if you get a general with that, it's even more powerful.
80. So you have basically a tank at military science tech.
And you also have another advantage, and see, the coastal not having as much housing is one disadvantage, but one advantage in a large player game, like 8 or 10 player, is that you spawn on the coast, so you automatically have one front taken off where you have to war. So instead of maybe being warred from 4 sides, it might only be 2 or 3. Typically, it's only 1 as well when you're on the coast, because you could lose 2 fronts if you're near the north or south, and then someone's not in the tundra above or below you.
Are you guys starting to do more like water maps, or is it still mostly land maps?
It's mostly land maps because people don't want an unbalanced map, which Fractal and islands can typically be, because
What
someone
about
can
the
get
one?
a
Isn't there one where you
10
can
city
get
island, someone can get 2 cities.
everybody gets their own continent? Wouldn't that be a decent one?
It just depends, honestly. It's comes down to civs, and just city states are huge. Like on a water map, if you get Nan Madal, which gives you +2 culture per district, city centers also count as districts. So your coastal cities all are giving you a monument's worth of culture. And England is especially powerful with
So
that.
is
The
it like too much?
dockyard would
Is it
count.
like too much simming then? If you have a water map, everybody just sims for a while, and there's not a lot of interaction.
No, water maps are fun because there's frigate fights and caravel and battleships later. But an islands map, if you have an island with 20 cities worth of space versus someone with 2 cities worth of space, typically the 2 cities is going to lose because they have to divert their entire tech tree to go shipbuilding to even survive, and that takes a lot of time. They're not going to have functional cities. They're not going to have as many trade routes, commercial hubs, campus districts, and harbors.
What's the map that has its fractal? Is that a popular map too? The ones like water and land combined, sort of like randomly.
Yeah, it is popular. But like I said, that one also has its issues as well. It's fun, but it can be very unbalanced in that somebody could get 2 commercial city-states and a science city-state near them, maybe Geneva, Kumasi, and then someone else could get like faith city-states that aren't really benefiting their civ. It just depends, really, on the layout of the land.
I'd say I like Fractal the most. Sometimes the generation is quite shit. But I like the ability for in a game that just has more options and variations in its strategy. It's not just rush cab and
games
get in
with
win.
battleships are really fun.
Yeah, I mean, if some people go land fight, some people go navy fight, then there's a little bit of mix in the mid game where some people get navy and army, balance it out.
Yeah, and I think that's how the game should be. It should always be both.
What about playing? Do you guys ever? Is there any kind of movement towards people playing like a faster turn timer game just to make the game go faster?
I actually had a 60-second game the other day.
So how was that? Was that good?
I think they upped it to another. They added some time to it, but I mean,
you guys,
I
don't think 60 is enough.
I
You guys
played
can play a
70
60
seconds today.
That's fine.
I would
think
say
90.
180 is probably the standard for late game when you have about 3,000 military strength with the troops, because with 150 you'll never finish. With 90 you'll never finish your
probably
turn.
managing
that would-
citizens, managing your
You have to manage your
economy.
cities.
But that would be a skill in itself. Like you have to put the governors on more of the cities, right? And you have to just do the
Well,
important stuff.
Nah, because it's just physically impossible to finish those turns, in my opinion at least.
Better
If
than
you have
other
20,
people.
if you have 20 cities and 3,000 military strength with the troops, which is probably like 70 to 80 troops, then you're not going to finish. It's physically impossible.
No, I can do it. It's just you need to be fully focused and not talk to your stream like I do.
You'd have to micro a lot, and
yeah.
you probably need a lot of hotkeys bound for certain things.
Dude, I have no hockey. I need to learn how to hockey. That's my one thing.
Hotkey switching between cities is a big advantage to take.
So it becomes.
I don't use them because I finish
if you do
usually.
60,
But
if you did a whole game with 60 seconds, it starts to become a little like StarCraft at the end.
No, I do StarCraft.
Yeah,
StarCraft is a different beast in and of itself.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
love StarCraft, man.
StarCraft is definitely a micro game. It's just like Warcraft 3.
You gotta split those Marines, man. Split the Marines.
This game is like StarCraft,
split,
probably
yeah,
mostly in the fact that you have to Zerg rush people with horses. It's just not as many Zergs.
Yeah. I used to do Marine rushes, 4 racks with a reactor. Just fucking rush Marines and then split. It's a winning strat. Like, just really early.
Well, I'm definitely going to jump in some FFAs this week, and then on next week's podcast, I'll let people know what
just tell me when you're jumping in, so I don't play and get wrecked.
Damn.
You're that afraid of me.
I don't want to literally feed you 400 skill points. Okay. I don't want to make you top 10 in
Climbs
one.
like
Yeah, because
you
there might
watch
just
you,
be
Louis
like
gonna be top 10 by the end of the month.
maybe the other players just gang up on you and say, let's let Louis beat Esdeath just to screw his
I will
his
never
ranking.
let you live that down.
It's not how much is it really though? Like how much did animation lose? I don't think he still.
No,
I
he
don't
didn't
think he
cry.
lost
There
anything.
was no salt there at all. At least not that I know of.
But I'm saying he didn't. He so many games it didn't have any effect on his ranking. I don't think.
Oh yes,
Who are we
it did.
talking to? Who are we talking about?
Automation.
When I beat animation, I don't think that did anything to his ranking. It helped my ranking a lot, but I don't think it did anything.
No,
to his.
because it needs to be updated first, and it takes forever for them to update it.
But still, he's
like-
got so many games. I can't believe one game out of the 2,000 that he's played is going to have the ranking too much.
Well, I mean that's going to be fixed with the new website, though. Esdeath, like it's all going to be handled electronically in terms of by bots and stuff. Like reports are going to be immediately uploaded, stats are going to be instantly updated, or at least as close to instantly as it can be done from. And you know it's going to be a lot smoother, but that project is still in its early phases.
I mean, y'all need to use like a database instead of whatever you guys are currently using.
We're working on that. We have developers doing that currently.
I mean,
we're just trying to
for
make
me,
it very
developers,
balanced, and it's hard to make a good skill rating formula because it has a lot of factors, and you're taking human behavior into account, which is something that you just cannot
You can't
really
quantify
map.
human
Yeah,
behavior.
exactly. You have to take certain variables and give them a certain weight, and we're deciding on which variables are.
What about
counting
all
towards
peace
it.
games? Is that getting any traction? I think that's interesting. That's a game kind of
Uh,
all peace.
Because it's another land-based game. If it was a mirrored map, then yeah, but it's not a skill-based
I mean,
game. It's who
let's-
gets the best land, who corners somebody and cuts them off. You know, like I would settle my first settle right next to somebody and then back settle so they can't come towards me.
I mean, like, just talk about the last Premier game that I played in, which was like 2-3 weeks ago. It was a peace game, a 10-man peace game, and I was Aztecs, and it was a huge map, I think. I got 10 first meets. I had a third of the map to myself, and I was allowed to war city-states. It was a raise-only peace game, so I couldn't just keep the cities.
So you got builders?
I got 56 builders that game. I kept a
Didn't
counter.
You, like, have a pocket Geneva too.
Yeah,
I had a pocket
was big.
Geneva. I had a Stockholm that I Suezed. I got Apadana.
And Aztec in that game has a huge advantage because you're not only getting free builders, but your districts can be built 20% with the builder.
But I don't. See, thing is, I
don't do that, but my point is, your spaceport
oh, dude,
at the end you can finish quicker.
I turned 84. No, I turned 86. I had 3 spaceports finished. I had I turned 83. I had 500.
Which is impossible with any other.
I still have the video on my Twitch. I still have it recorded. It's turned 83. I had 500 sides. It was it was hilarious. It was. I was
That's not typical.
Yeah.
What a great game! It's like don't you and Esdeath and Harambe have about like 4,000 or 5,000 hours between you, and you still like love the game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
I
one of
it.
the.
I just wish I had more time.
Probably the only strategy game that I couldn't just master from playing like a couple times. Like you'll never master this game. You'll get good, but you can always learn
You've never
something.
played another game like this many hours.
League of
Counter-Strike.
League of Legends. I played League of Legends since 2008, man. Or 2009, whatever it was.
Yeah, for me it's definitely Dota 2, World of Warcraft, and yeah, I think those are the only
maybe
two that
RuneScape.
I've pumped stupid amounts of hours.
Shit,
No, I had a
when I was
childhood.
younger.
I didn't play RuneScape. I had friends.
My friends played RuneScape though.
I played RuneScape as a kid. It was awesome.
Dude, man,
Sounds like
my
the
DD.
Until I realized, like,
Because
oh,
you
I
need to
need
go
to sit
outside.
here for 800 hours to get level 99.
Dude,
And it's a number.
I remember when I got my DDS way back when. I felt so good. I was like, yeah, look at that animation, that swipe, swipe, swipe. You know, super poison.
We're going to go ahead. We're going to call the podcast here for the night. Thanks, everyone, for coming out. I really appreciate everyone who stopped into view. And thanks for coming on, both Harambe and Esdeath. It was a lot of fun. We got a lot of stuff talked about. I hope everyone took something away from this.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Thanks,
That was a
Connor.
very dynamic podcast, and we saw the softer side of Esdeath too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
it's the fake
softer,
side.
the fake side. If you want to see the real side, remember to join Civplayers League, CPL. Google it, find the Discord link, and come join and play with us. I'll teach you, and then in a month or so, when you get relatively good, I'll actually go all out on you, and then you cry. And I'll enjoy it.
So then, when you're being trolled, it's a sign that you're actually a decent player. That's how you know.
Yeah.
Well, if you're ever curious about Esdeath, just look for which side of his face has all the Botox.
What?
It's all fake, man.
Oh, Jesus.
See you
Also,
guys
remember.
next time.
Okay.